I was looking for one scripture reading that would be, for me at least, meaningful as I thought about what needs to guide us in all of our life, be it our personal life, our corporate life together. I don't mean by corporations, but the way in which we commune with one another. What makes our life more meaningful and more rich and resourceful when we think about the ways in which our nation functions, and our nation in relationship to other nations, and us in relationship to other people all over the globe. And I was stunned when I thought immediately of the Beatitudes. And so I want to share them with you in their entirety. These are incredibly powerful words that come to us. And by the way, I'm not reading all 12 verses or chapters of the first. These are the Beatitudes which spoke so powerfly to the people as they were struggling to figure out how to live their lives. And I've lost the page here. Please forgive me. It's in Matthew. Come on, Matthew. There we go. It's in chapter 5. And Jesus is gathering together his disciples and a large crowd of people. And he's now offering to them what will bring not only blessing to them, but joy in that blessing. And so here are the words. And he says to the crowd, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down like a teacher, he was a rabbi, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the poor in spirit, those who know that they have a level of spiritual poverty and want to gain that spiritual power, that spiritual wealth. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. How important it is for us when we mourn, whatever it may be, that we might indeed be comforted, not only by one another, but by the words of our faith and the words of Jesus. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are the meek. We used to think only the powerful and the great and the mighty could inherit because they could take it from the meek. But indeed, what is clear is that the meek are blessed by God, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Now that's a different kind of hunger and thirst. Those who are hungry for food so that they can stay alive is one thing, but now that they have food to stay alive, the greater hunger now is for that sense of right living, right being, right relationship, not only with one another, but with their Maker. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Merciful, because they will receive mercy. How often you have felt really comforted by your gifts, knowing that they're going to be bringing a merciful response from this congregation, from you, to the needs that we see both in our community and more broadly. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Those who come without an ulterior motive, those who come not expecting to get recognition or gain from the gift or from our response, but blessed are the pure in heart, who do their giving, who do their serving, who do their loving because we've been called on Jesus to follow him and be that way. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Oh, do we need peacemakers today in both our nation and the world? Peacemakers who will talk to one another, who will connect with each other, whether that's in the chambers of government or in the chambers of one's local community or in the household of the families of our nation and of the world. Those who are willing to make peace, who find a way to bring wholeness to a relationship rather than division. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness, for right living, for being responsive to the call of the Maker to proclaim the good news. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Not on my account, on Jesus' account, on the account of Jesus, who come because they are, being hurtful and harmful to you. Blessed are they who experience that. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. At a later date, Jesus pointed out that he would be treated very much like the prophets of old, who were not only abused and beaten and imprisoned, and many who were then killed, that he too would suffer that rejection. There's a song that Peter, Paul, and Mary sang a number of years ago. I've always treasured that song because it's a powerful one. Hear these words if you don't recall them. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over the land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out a warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters all over the land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening all over the land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out warning, I'd ring out love between my brothers and my sisters all over the land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over the land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out a warning, I'd sing out love between my brothers and my sisters all over the land. And then it concludes with these powerful words, well, I've got a hammer, and I've got a bell, and I've got a song to sing all over the land. It's the hammer of justice. It's the bell of freedom. It's the song of love between my brothers and my sisters all over the land. John Swift shared with me an exceptional email link to a message that came from Winston Churchill in 1931. 1931. And what he talked about was 50 years hence. What will the next 50 years be like? Oh my, I wish he had said 100 years. This is 93 years ago. He begins by saying the great masses of human beings absorbed in the toils, cares, and activities of life are only dimly conscious of the pace at which humankind has begun to travel. We look back 100 years and see the great changes have taken place. We look back 50 years and see that the speed is constantly quickening. And then he highlights all of those changes that have occurred, all of the things that have happened before, but now the last 50 years is just remarkable. The changes, the Civil War has ended. There are other changes that have come. There's this massive inflow of people who are coming to America to become part of the dream of this land. He's talking about the wonderful changes that are happening in technology and in intellect and the medicine, and it goes on. There's a whole host of exceptional changes. And as I was reading it and listening to his words in my brain, I began to think of the changes in the past 43 years since he wrote this. And I'm saying, oh my, what an incredible over the 93-year changes have come. And then he says something rather interesting. He said, I just read a book. And in that book, he said, everything was beautiful and good. People could live as long as they wanted to. They could traverse the universe and universes. They could do everything they wanted to do. They'd all be comfortable and happy. No, he said, they aren't all happy. And they all are wondering why they're still there and what this is all about. And he says, humankind has gone too far to go back and is moving too fast to stop. It's kind of like going down a hill and you're going so fast you can't stop, and you know that at some point you're going to fall, and you want to not fall face forward because that can be rather hurtful. And when I'm downhill skiing, I usually fall down so I don't fall face forward if I'm going too fast. And it's moving too fast to stop, he said. There are too many people maintained and not merely in comfort, but in existence by processes unknown a century ago for us to afford even a temporary check, still less a general setback, without experiencing calamity in its most frightful form. He talks about these folks. There are 15 or 16 races of humans which in succession have risen over periods covering several million years. In the end, a race of beings was evolved which had mastered everything in this novel. A state was created whose citizens lived as long as they chose, enjoyed pleasures and sympathies incompatibly wider than our own, navigating the interplanetary spaces, and could recall the panorama of the past and foresee the future. But what was the good of all of that to them? What did they know more than we know about the answers to the simple question which humans have asked since the earliest dawn of reason? Why are we here? What is the purpose of life? Where are we going? He ends his essay with these words, and with the hopes and powers will come dangers out of all proportion to the growth of our intellect and the strength of this character or its efficiency. Once more, the choice is offered between humans, blessing or curse. And then he says, never was the answer that will be given harder to foretell than today. I happen to believe strongly that Jesus had this incredible insight as he offered, as the Son of Man, all of these incredible blessings that could be offered to people. Now, he wasn't asking them to sign up and become members of his church. He was just saying to them at that moment in time, come, listen to what makes life really blessed. And if each of us understand that as a gift from the giver of life, it makes for all of our life so much holier and so much happier. Now and then I experience a certain kind of melancholy and a certain amount of remorse and sadness. And I worry about the way in which I witness, and sometimes the treat others. I'm concerned about that. I say, why do we still do that? Why do we treat each other with unkindness and as a bully, as if we have more power over them than they have in themselves? Why is it necessary to pump our chest and say how great we are? Are we so insecure that we need to do that? Why is it that we demean and dehumanize people who discover that they are different by birth? Why do we choose to behave in such a way that we harm people rather than help people and help them affirm the value of their worth and of their life? How is it that we are so quick to discount and disregard others who have found great joy in their faith and great joy in their choices in life? Why are we? And I think the message is, if you want to be blessed, if you want to be fully aware of the gift of God's love for us, then I ask you to consider once again these Beatitudes. They are so special, so valued. And he offered them to the crowd that was there, not just to his disciples, by the way, but to the whole crowd, whoever they were. There might have been Jews there. There might have been those who practiced another religion. There might have been those who were their captive. There might have been those who thought Jesus was just a charlatan. And very simply, he's offering, really simple words. Blessed, wholeness comes, insight comes, security in your living experience and in your common relationship with one another and our relationship with nations, if we follow these important and powerful and inspiring wise words. Blessed are you when you discover that you are needing God's Spirit, needing your spirit to be nurtured. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit. Blessed are those who are hungry for right living. Whereas Micah says, I say again, God doesn't ask a lot of you. What God is saying, live justly. Live your life as an example of justice. Love kindness. Kindness, not hatred, not anger, not destruction, not division, but kindness. And show the kind of mercy that God has shown to us through Jesus. And then walk humbly with your God. Amen. Humbly with your God. And when you walk humbly with God, when we walk humbly with God, we can walk humbly with one another. Humbly with one another. God bless you on this day and on this week.